ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः. Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of Great Master Sri Ramakrishna, written by Shardanandaji Maharaj. Yesterday we were looking into the different aspects of movement of the Kundalini. Kundalini in our individual soul is like the coiled up snake. All the energy of ours, all the memory, everything it is stored there. It is also Kundalini is likened to the Divine Mother, who is separated from Lord Shiva, that is, who is in the Sahasrara, the Parabrahma Swarupa, the the power of the Parabrahma Swarupa, which is in the Sahasrara at the thousand petal lotus. Divine Mother is separated and she is there below. The Sahasrara will be always attracting this Kundalini. But because we are now all interested in worldly things, enjoying the worldly things, and the Ajnana or the Avidya or the Maya, whatever you call, the ignorance is so strong that the Divine Mother in the form of Kundalini doesn't awaken. So, by purity of mind, by sadhana, by japa, by various other spiritual practices, karma yoga, when we even awaken, purify our mind, awaken that mother to little extent, then the force of attraction of the Parabrahma Swarupa, the Lord, will be so much that it will lift that Kundalini up. The Kundalini will go up. She also wants to go and join the Shiva or the Sahasrara. But because of our worldly things, it will be dragging down. It doesn't allow to go up. So when it awakens and then goes up, how does it go? What are the different moves? Everything. Yesterday we have gone through that. Now today Ramakrishna Paramahamsa will be telling us about all the different planes, the seven planes, that is the chakra, seven chakras from the Muladhara up to the Sahasrara, what is their nature, what will happen, everything is going to explain now. We shall go through that. We will hear the words of Sri Ramakrishna. These are very helpful for our meditation. Now, about the visions in each centers, while the coiled power goes up by the passage of Sushumna, about the visions in each center, while the coiled power is Kundalini. So for the individual soul, if that is the Kundalini, for a nation, for a state, for a society, it also has, and even the whole world has that power called Kundalini. Vivekananda and also other direct disciples used to tell, this time the greatest of the Avatara, Ramakrishna, who has come, has awakened the national Kundalini of the India, country India, and also of the world, has awakened it. That is the Divine Mother Kali, has awakened her. Now, no more force, whatever may be the greatness of that force, whether negative or positive or whatever, no more force can stop that power of India, the Kundalini of India, which has arisen and going forward. No force on earth can stop it. Swami Vivekananda used to tell. And that has been aroused by Sri Ramakrishna. So nobody can understand all these things. Only great people, the yogis, can understand. So Vivekananda has told that by the advent of Sri Ramakrishna, again, even in this Kali Yuga, the Satya Yuga, Krita Yuga started again. And he has aroused the national, the Indian Kundalini. Now, no power. I can see the Divine Mother has awakened and is sitting on the throne. People who have the eyes can see it. Now, India will go to such glorious state. Whatever we had seen that India in the past, thousands of years back, it ruled the whole world until there were so much of divisions and all. For thousands of years, India ruled the whole world, not by military power, but by its culture, but by its spirituality, but by its education. In all the ways, it ruled the world. So even by its economy, by science and technology, everything, mathematics, everything, India ruled, and it had reached the highest zenith. That was why all the Europeans, they used to come to India to do business, to get wealth from India. They were rushing to India because the land route was mm, destroyed or captured by the Ottoman Turks, the Muslims, the Islamic rulers. They closed the land route to India through the Turk, Constantinople. So they were forced, the Europeans were forced to find out the sea route. That's why Vasco da Gama, the Portuguese sailor, he set sail and came down to Africa. And from Africa, the Cape of Good Hope, that's the reason we get the name. Cape Town is called as Cape of Good Hope because Vasco da Gama from there found the route to India. That's the reason why it is called Cape of Good Hope, Cape Town. Now too we name it in South Africa as Cape Town. So then Vasco da Gama came to India, and that was the greatest of joy to the Europeans then, because they found out the sea route. Then everybody started coming to India through the sea route and making a lot of business and money. All the economy of the whole world was controlled by India at that time. Then to find the different route, then Columbus took another route through the, this was through the Indian Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean. So Columbus wanted to find out the way to India through the Pacific Ocean. So he traveled the other side of the globe. Then instead of coming to India, he found out the West Indies. Then that's why he called that area or the islands as West India. This was East India. They named it as West Indies, or even now the name is there West India, because they were all trying to find the route to India because of the glorious, that even at that time the glory of India had come down comparatively. It was more glorious even earlier, thousands of years, 20, 30, 40,000 years back. Glory of India was still high at its zenith, and Columbus did that to the West Indies. Then again another sailor who went, who found out, his name was Amerigo Vespucci. He went still further, finding out the route to India and came to America. That's why the continent was named as America. Why? Because it was found by Amerigo Vespucci. So Columbus only discovered this West Indies and came back. So see, everything, it was to find the route to India, because India's glory was at the highest at that time. And now again, that for many many years, maybe some 800 years, there was the downfall. And now the great people like Sri Ramakrishna, the Avatar Varishta, and Vivekananda, they have come. Vivekananda sat on the rock of Kanyakumari. He wept, he meditated, he gave up his food and sleep and meditated for 3 days and 3 nights to find out the cause for the downfall of India and to find out the cause to rejuvenate India again. He found that. And we all see how he rejuvenated India with the help of the teachings of Sri Ramakrishna and the spirituality given by him. Now, Vivekananda used to prophesy, I can see the glory of India coming to such a height. Mother, Mother India, or the Kundalini of India, or the Divine Mother has awoken and has taken the seat on her throne. Then the glory now, which we are going to get, India, the glory of India, which now will rise here afterwards, will be so much, will increase so much that the olden glory which India had seen, as I explained just now, why the Europeans said everybody wanted to, Greeks, the Romans, They all wanted to come to India and do business. So all those glories of India which it had seen then, now the present glory of India will rise up to such an extent that all the olden glory will pale into insignificance. Even 100 times or 10 times or 1,000 times more, the Indian glory will rise. Only people with eyes can see it. Swami Vivekananda used to prophesy. So, Sri Ramakrishna Paramahamsa has aroused the Kundalini of India nation, that is Divine Mother Kali, awakened her. Now, the force is protecting India in such a way, no other force, whether it is the pandemic or the China or whatever force, cannot disturb. Maybe there will be some ups and downs because of our past karmas. While finding out the reason, Swami Vivekananda used to tell why there was downfall of India. He diagnosed it, he investigated it, and told there were the two important reasons which made the downfall of India. What was that? The first important reason is strangulating and putting down the women of India. They were not allowed to grow. They were all dominated and covered up, not to grow. That was earlier, it was not so. During the Vedic period and the earlier period, women were given very high position. Only after Islamic invasion, the intruders, the invaders were so ruthless and so bad in nature. They used to take away women and other people for slave trade. So they, in their religion, they thought that women were just object of enjoyment. So to protect them, all these things had to happen in India. Earlier, they had a lot of freedom. They were given, women were educated equally. After the invasion, to protect them, all these things happened. And again, now another reason which Swami Vivekananda tells, because you didn't allow women to grow, you strangulated them, you suppressed them. One of the reasons. Second reason, the lower strata of people, the common mass of people, were also very badly treated in India. And they were also strangulated on their throat and not allowed to grow. So the sins committed by Indians by suppressing and troubling and also putting down, suppressing the women force and the lower strata of people, the common mass, the lower class of people were so much troubled and they were not allowed to grow. So these two reasons, Swami Vivekananda prophesies, were the reason for that karma, just like any individual karma, bad karma, like that, a state, a society, a family, a nation also will have the karma. So because of that bad karma, too, suppressing the women of India and suppressing the lower mass of India were the reason for the downfall. Open that, give them freedom, allow them to grow, allow the women to grow, give them empowerment, education, give the low strata of people the empowerment. Then you see how India will grow. And now you can see that that is happening. No force on India, no force on the world or the universe can stop India from growing. These were the prophecies of Swami Vivekananda. Why? Sri Ramakrishna has aroused, awoken the Kundalini of the nation itself, of the world itself. Now we shall go to the visions of Sri Ramakrishna. We were just telling about the Kundalini's arising and what are the this thing you are going to get. About the visions in each center, while the coiled up power goes up by the passage of Sushumna. The master used to say, the Vedanta speaks of 7 planes. The experiences in these planes differ from one another. The mind normally moves up and down in the 3 lowest planes. So the 3 lowest planes is the Muladhara, Swadhisthana, and Manipura. So at the bottom of the backbone, the lowest coccyx, that's called Muladhara, and Swadhisthana, just behind the generative organ, and the middle one or the near just behind the navel. So these are the 3 centers: Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura. So our mind will be just moving about, or the plane of existence or Kundalini power will be awakened to such a minimal, infinitesimal, small amount, and it will be mind will be only working through these lower planes, Muladhara, Swadhisthana, and Manipura. So all the works we do, eating, sleeping, then procreation, and the enjoyments of the world, and whatever your scientific discoveries you have done until now, all that progress in science, what is happening, all these wonderful things, the highest things, whatever you see in this world, has happened only by the rousing of the Kundalini, the power of the Kundalini to infinitesimal point. Infinitesimal, I'm telling you. Very, very, very small, infinitesimal. Only with this you can see all the progress what has happened. So by purification of the mind and by all the sadhanas, by yoga, by the Gnana Marga or the Bhakti Marga, if you arouse this Kundalini, then imagine what will be the power. If it awakens to its fuller extent, what would be the power you will be having? That is, that you have that infinite power within you. We are searching for power outside. It is all within us. Only you have to purify your mind by sadhana, by karma yoga, by puja. Then you see how much power will be generated in you. So with only very little power, all these things what you are seeing is happening in this world. The mind is moving only with these three planes, the lower planes, that is the Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura. All the works is happening only because of that. By the grace of the Lord or the purification of the mind or the sadhana, if it arises, then you will be the owner of such wonderful power, uncontrollable power, immeasurable. So the mind normally moves up and down in the three lowest planes. Its functioning is fixed to the anus, that is the Muladhara, the organs of generation, that is Swadhisthana, and the navel, the Manipura. What are the work done there? Eating, dressing, coition, and the like. All these things happen when mind is only moving about in these lower planes. If, however, Sri Ramakrishna is telling, if, however, it happens, the Kundalini is aroused and it happens to transcend those three planes and reaches the heart, then one has the vision of the light. Then you will see the vision of the light in the heart center. So that is what you are praying all the time in the Gayatri Mantra. Dhi, Dhi Prachodana. Bhargaha Devasya Dhimahi. If I meditate upon the light of the Lord, Bharga means light. Devasya of the Lord, Dhimahi, the Creator God. So when your mind rises to the height of the heart, if however Sri Ramakrishna is telling, it happens to transcend those three planes, Muladhara, Swadhisthana, Manipura, and reaches the heart lotus or the heart plane, that is the Anahata Chakra. Then what happens? One has the vision of light. So God exists in the heart in the form of light. And Kathopanishad also states that Angushtamatro Purusho Antaratma. So of this size of this Angushta, the thumb, your own thumb. So it is present at the heart region in the form of light. The Atman, which you called the individual soul, it is present there in the form of light of the size of the Angushta. It is told in Kathopanishad. That's why when they make images to be worshipped in the houses for the individual people, in the houses, the size of the images will not be bigger than the thumb, because in your heart, the individual soul is of the size of the thumb in the form of the light, like a flame kept in a windless place. Suppose there is a flame of light burning in a windless place of this size. There is no wind. It will not be shaking like that. It will be straight. So in the form of that light or a flame, the Atmasvarupa individual soul or Atman God will is existing there. So when by your hard work, by your sadhana, raise your mind, you raise your kundalini to the level of the heart, then as Sri Ramakrishna is telling, if however it happens to transcend those three planes, that is the Muladhara, Swadhisthana and Manipura, and reaches the heart, that is Anahata Chakra, one has the vision of the light, then you will see the light in your heart. But although the mind rises sometimes to the heart, yes, due to some purity of the heart, when the mind rises, but the karmas, the bad karmas, the papa karmas, and the desires to enjoy this world, vasanas, all this will pull the down mind because so much of desire is there. You are not sufficiently purified your mind. Purification of the mind is not complete. So even though you can raise your mind up to the heart, gain the samskaras, the tendencies, the desires which are there, so powerful desires in the form of avidya, maya, pull down your mind. So the mind will come down. So if, however, it happens to transcend those three planes and reaches the heart, one is the vision of light. But although the mind rises sometimes to the heart, it comes down to the three lower planes again. It comes down to the three lower planes again. If anyone's mind goes up to the throat, so from the Anahata Chakra, if you purify your mind through Karma Yoga, sadhana, japa, so if you go on doing japa and meditation which the Guru has given, nothing more, you need not do anything else. Just follow whatever your Guru has told in the Upasana book. Go on doing the japa with great faith and intensity, love for God, your Ishtadevata. Then all these, whatever is telling Sri Ramakrishna, the purification of the mind and the raising of the Kundalini will happen by itself. You need not worry about the Kundalini. You need not worry about anything else. Just go on doing the japa. Why? Holy Mother has told Sharda Devi, Japat Siddhi. By just doing the japa given by your Guru, you can get Brahmagnana, the highest Japat Siddhi. These are the words of Holy Mother. So nothing to worry. With faith, great faith, go on doing the japa. Increase it every day, gradually. So every day, if you can do 10 to 15,000 of your japa, then Holy Mother tells, then come and ask me that nothing has happened to you in spiritual life. The japa will become awakened. Then it will become like a kalpa vriksha. It will give whatever you want. So do it every day. We don't do. We ask many devotees, how many did you do? Oh, the japa, something like 21 times. Mala did you do? No, no, 21 numbers. Is that enough? Why can't? Oh, we will try to. 100 by great difficulty, 108. And two mala, three mala, oh, that is a great thing. So Holy Mother is telling if you can do every day 10,000 to 15,000 japas, then the mantra will be awakened. Then it will become like a wish yielding tree. Whatever you want, it can give you. We don't do the japa. We don't want to purify our minds. We are so much engrossed in these worldly things. And we go on complaining, oh, we have finished 30 years, 40 years of spiritual initiation. Nothing is happening. You are doing nothing. So what can you expect? So if you intensify just by the japa and meditation taught by your guru, because both meditating on the Ishtadevata while doing the japa, it is together with that. If you do that, the purification of the mind will happen to such an extent, you'll get all those things. No other thing. Don't worry about all the other things. Whatever your guru has told, have faith in it and do it how much you can get. The main problem is faith. You don't have faith. So if anyone's mind goes up to the throat, now after much purification from the heart region, if the mind can rise up to the level of the throat, that is the Vishuddha Chakra. If anyone's mind goes up to the throat, he cannot speak on any mundane topics. If anyone's mind goes up to the throat, he cannot speak on any mundane topics. So he cannot think on worldly things. He doesn't want to think of the mundane things. He wants to think such person will be then afterwards thinking only on God and God alone. He doesn't want anything else. So he will speak, the person whose mind has risen to the level of the Vishuddha Chakra, throat chakra, he will speak only of God. he will speak only of God. And Ramakrishna is now describing his own condition during those days when he was in the initial stages of sadhana, when his mind had risen to the level of the throat, that is Vishuddha Chakra. What was happening in him? See, this is, I'm telling of Ramakrishna in the initial stage as a small youth or boy when he was performing sadhana, when the Kundalini was going up to the level of the throat. It is about that. So at that time, what was the thing happening? So that is the state of mind of Ramakrishna during that sadhana time. So you should not confuse, oh, why did Ramakrishna, he would hate his relatives, or he would not talk of worldly things and other things, he would send away such people. No, during the period of sadhana, when he was thinking only of God and God alone, when his mind had gone to the higher level of throat, Vishuddha Chakra, during the initial stages, then his mind was like that. So now Ramakrishna is telling, if anyone's throat, mind goes up to the throat, he cannot speak on any mundane topics, worldly things. He will speak only of God. So in those days, Sri Ramakrishna used to tell, I felt as if I was struck on the head with a stick when someone spoke of worldly matters. So during those period, when he was in the initial stages of sadhana, if someone around Sri Ramakrishna would speak about worldly things, Vishaya of the sensual objects, then Ramakrishna would feel as if somebody has taken a stick and hitting on his head. It would pain him to such an extent. If anybody would talk worldly things, it would pain him to that. So that was only at that time of sadhana. So Ramakrishna is telling about his period of sadhana when his mind has risen to the level of the throat, Vishuddha Chakra. If anyone's mind goes up to the throat, he cannot speak on any mundane topics. He will speak only of God and God alone. In those days, that is during sadhana, when Sri Ramakrishna's mind had risen to the level of throat, Vishuddha Chakra, in those days, I felt as if I was struck on the head with a stick when anyone spoke of worldly matters. So, what are we to take from this? So, think only of God and God alone. Do not think and speak of the mundane things, worldly things, or the sensual things. Think of the Lord. So then Ramakrishna will be happy with you. Not that if you think other things and if you come to Ramakrishna, Ramakrishna will not get angry, but he will be happy if you think of God and God alone. Give up all these things and start moving in spiritual life. So that is what we have to mean. Take grasp only the reading between the line. That's all. In those days, I felt as if I was struck on the head with a stick when anyone spoke of worldly matters. So if you are using harsh words, angry words to your kith and kin, to your family members, to other people, to your colleagues, to your children, worldly way, you are scolding them with harsh things, talking about these ugly things, then it is as good as you are hitting Sri Ramakrishna with a stick on the head. So don't do that. Do not be harsh. Do not be angry. Do not be worldly. Do not be selfish. Start thinking. Purify your mind. We don't know how many years have left. We can see everywhere during this pandemic, so many people are dying. So when we will be thinking that we will be permanently putting a jhanda, a flag, and will be living eternally here. No, when that call of death will come, we do not know. So quickly start thinking of God. Give up these worldly things. That's what Sri Ramakrishna is meaning here. Do the sadhana, purify your mind. Where is the time? You think you are eternally living here? So do the sadhana. That's what is meant by all these things we are reading. So do not worry about that. Oh, I will die tomorrow or today. No. Start thinking of God. Start doing the sadhana. Give up these worldly things, Vishaya Vastus. That's what Ramakrishna is telling. So if you get angry, if you ill treat people with the worldly things and selfish things, it is as good as you are hitting Sri Ramakrishna on the head with a stick. So be careful when you hurt other people with the worldly attitude, with the selfish attitude. So in those days, I felt as if I was struck on the head with a stick when anyone spoke of worldly matters. I would fly to the Panchavati. Fly means would run away to Panchavati. I couldn't hear the worldly talks. Anybody talking of the worldly things, criticizing others, spreading calumny, speaking ill of others behind the back, spreading rumors, sharing ugly things, all those things. If Ramakrishna could hear, it would be as if beating on his head. So Ramakrishna would run away at that time to Panchavati. He couldn't hear all those things. So he used to fly. Ramakrishna is telling that in those days I felt as if I was struck on the head with a stick when anyone spoke of worldly matters. I would fly to the Panchavati. I would run away to the Panchavati where I could not have to hear, where I could have not to hear the talks on those topics. So Ramakrishna would run away so that he could escape from hearing these worldly things. So while you are spreading calumny, speaking ill of others, scolding with your acidic tongue, hurting others, paining others. So you can imagine what you are doing to the Lord. It is as good you are hurting him. See, Ramakrishna couldn't hear these things to run away to the Panchavati. If anyone's in those days, I would fly to the Panchavati where I would not have to hear the talks on these topics. I would feel frightened. Sri Ramakrishna is telling I would feel frightened and would hide myself when I saw worldly minded people. I would feel frightened and would hide myself when I saw worldly people. Relatives who would try to drag my mind to lower planes, not allow me to think of God. Such relatives appear to me as enemies. So I'm again mentioning relatives who try to drag my mind to the lower planes or do not allow to think of God, are always thinking of worldly things and forcing such things on us, such relatives. Relatives appear to me to be enemies trying to push me down into these deep pits, falling into which once I felt I might not be able to get up again. So when such people used to come near me, I felt suffocated, as if my breath has stopped, suffocated. I couldn't breathe. When such people, worldly people with worldly thoughts, or those people who would be spreading calumny, speaking ill of others, angry, always with that anger, the negative tendencies, when they come, Sri Ramakrishna would feel suffocated. It seemed I was at the point of death. I could have peace only when I fled away from them. The mind might come down now after that. That happens once Sri Ramakrishna is explaining about what will be the state of mind when your mind rises from the heart lotus to the Vishuddha chakra. At that time, your mind also, you will also start feeling like this. This will be the state of mind. You will be only liking to think of God and God alone. When your mind rises to this level, then at that time, any worldly talks will pain you. You cannot withstand. You will run away from that. You will feel very much pained when you start. Somebody is talking about worldly things. So only you want to hear about God and God alone when your mind rises to this level. Then after that, what is Ramakrishna explaining about the other states of spirituality? The mind, even after rising to the level of the throat, might come down again to the anus, means the lowest chakra, the plane of existence, your mind, where it says that is Muladhara. So the mind might, Ramakrishna is telling, it might come down to the level of the anus, that is Muladhara, the lowest plane. The generating organ, that is the Swadhisthana, and the navel, that is the Manipura chakra, the level behind your Nabhi or navel. Even though the mind has risen to the level of the heart and the throat, it can come down to these three level, lower level. That means there may be a fall. You can fall down from that higher plane even when it reaches the throat. One should even then be alert. You can't be very, very sure at that time. Even when it reaches the throat, you should be very alert. Anytime it can even fall down, your desires, your samskaras, your vasanas, the intense desires which are there in us, drag you down to this lower level. So it can come down to the lower level. So we have to be the sadhakas, the spiritual aspirants should be careful. The mind might come down again to the anus, that is Muladhara, the generating organ, navel, that is the Swadhisthana and Manipura. And even though it has reached the throat, it has gone to such a higher level, even then it can fall down. One should even then be alert, should be very, very careful. That's why Sri Ramakrishna used to again and again tell the spiritual aspirants, sadhu. Sadhu means people who are thinking of God. Sadhu, savdhan, be attention always. Don't be forgetful. Be always alert. Be mindful. Always be mindful. Watch your thoughts. Witness. Be a witness. Always watch your thought. Watch your actions. Watch your deeds. The speech. Everything. Sadhu, savdhan. Oh, spiritual aspirant, be alert. These were the words of Sri Ramakrishna always. So the mind might come down again to the anus, the generating organ, and the navel, even though it has reached the throat. And one should even then be alert, should be very, very careful. Then Sri Ramakrishna goes forward to tell that if, however, if by your self effort, by the grace of God, by the grace of Guru, and by your sadhana, by purification of your mind, however, you try hard doing more sadhana and you're successful in taking your mind to the next level of plane of existence, that is the agna, in between the eyebrows, agna chakra, where we keep the kumkum or the this thing, whatever the spiritual insignia to make our mind. So if it rises to this level, now you can see why we keep these things near the eyebrow, to raise our mind to that level, to think of God at that level. So from even when you are at the throat, there are chances of fall. But once your mind comes to this region, Sri Ramakrishna tells, you have purified your mind, you have done sadhana to such an extent that mind will come to this level, then there is no question of fall afterwards. Then you need not fear. Then after that, you need not be alert by it will become your own nature then. Alertness will be awareness and mindfulness will be your nature. Then you need not put in the special effort consciously to be alert. So then there'll be no fall. Then the spiritual aspirant will never have any fall once it reaches this level. Why? Sri Ramakrishna will explain it now. Why, how it happens, everything Sri Ramakrishna is going to take us through that. If, however, anybody's mind reaches the spot between the eyebrows, that is the Agna Chakra, eyebrows, between the eyebrows, Agna Chakra, that's why you can see Shiva is having the third eye. Divine Mother is also having the third eye. That is the Gnana Chakshu, the eye of knowledge has opened. These two eyes only see the worldly things. When this eyes develops, then it is the Gnana Chakshu. Now you can understand why we Hindus always keep that Gandha, the sandalwood, or Kumkum, or Sindhu, yeah, the third eye. So when it awakens, when your mind, what is meant by awakening of the third eye? When your mind has become so pure, it rises always, it stays at the higher plane of existence. The heart is the best thing. Above the heart, throat, even then it is not safe. When it comes here, it is so safe. After that, there is no fall to the spiritual aspirant. If, however, anybody's mind reaches the spot between the eyebrows, he has no more fear of fall. He has no more fear of fall. These are the words of Sri Ramakrishna. He then has a direct knowledge Gnana Chakshu. He then has the direct knowledge. He will directly perceive. He'll be having the vision directly. He will be directly perceive. He then has the direct knowledge of the Supreme Self, Paramatman. He then has the direct knowledge of the Supreme Self and remains continuously in Samadhi. He then has the direct knowledge of the Supreme Self and remains continuously in Samadhi. There is only a screen. There is only a small screen, transparent like glass. There is only a screen, transparent like glass, separating this center from the 1,000-petaled lotus, that is Sahasrara. In each of the center, there is a lotus differing from one another in the number of petals, colors, etc. So I've explained about this lotus, the number of petals, and the color and the nature and what is happening if you arouse those things in the puja class. When all those chakras came up in the Bhuta Shuddhi, I've explained in detail with all the pictures. I had explained it. So now, if however anybody's mind reaches the spot between the eyebrows, Agna Chakra. So here it's the two petal lotus, one petal here, one petal here, two petal lotus. So Agna Chakra, it is two petal. Here it is a Sahasrara, 1,000-petal lotus. If, however, anybody's mind reaches the spot between the eyebrows, that spiritual aspirant has no more fear of a fall. He then has the direct knowledge of the Supreme Self. He then has the direct knowledge of the Supreme Self and remains continuously in Samadhi. That is union with God. Samadhi means union with God. There is only a screen, transparent like glass, separating the center from the 1,000-petal lotus. In the brain, the Sahasrara, there is only a screen, transparent like glass, separating the center from the 1,000-petal lotus in the brain, the Sahasrara. The Supreme Self is so near. The Supreme Self, Paramatman, Parabrahma, is so near then that it seems as if one is merged in him, identified with him. So that is what we read in the Upanishad, in the Vedanta treatise. Atma Bhyasa is practiced to reach this Atmaikya, Brahmaikya, the identified with him. They always tell you to identify yourself with the Atman or Paramatman, not with this body, mind, ego. So the Supreme Self is so near, then that it seems as if one is merged in him, identified with him. But the identification is yet to be. It is as if you are now merged in him or identified with him, but yet the identification is yet to be complete. If the mind comes down from here, it comes to the most, at the most, to the throat or the heart. So after reaching to this level, why Sri Ramakrishna is telling that it will not have a fall? Because the mind at the most after that may come down to the throat, Vishuddha Chakra or the Anahat, not below that. That's why there is no danger of fall to the spiritual aspect. At the most it may come to the heart. Again, by repeated practices, it can rise up. So the Supreme Self is so near, the Paramatman, the Parabrahman is so near that it seems as if one is merged in him, identified with him. But the identification is yet to be. If the mind comes down from here, it may come down at the most down to the throat or the heart. It cannot come lower down. The Jiva Kotis never come down. The Jiva Kotis never come down from this plane. Jiva Kotis means the ordinary human beings who are having only vision to liberate themselves and merge in God. They are Jivakotis. They are selfish a little. Their mind can never come down after this. After the experience of continuous samadhi for 21 days, the screen is pierced and the oneness of the self with him becomes complete for the ordinary souls. To be completely merged in the Supreme Self, in the Sahasrara, now the Kundalini goes and merges in the Paramatman. So, in the Sahasrara, the thousand petal lotus is what is called reaching the seventh plane. And that seventh plane is Turiya Avastha. That is called the Turiya plane. Turiya, the seventh plane is called the Turiya plane, where the Kundalini reaches and merges in the Sahasrara. So after the experience of continuous Samadhi for 21 days, the screen, the thin screen is pierced, and the oneness of the self with him, with the Lord, with the Paramatman becomes complete, to be completely merged in the Supreme Self, to be completely merged in the Supreme Self, in the Sahasrara, in the thousand petal lotus, is what is called reaching the seventh plane, Turiya plane. So, hearing the Master speaking of the Vedas, the Vedanta, and the science of yoga, some of us, however, would sometimes ask him, Sir, Mahashai, sir, although you never learnt even reading and writing, how did you know all these things? Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling these young students, the young youths at that time, but come to Sri Ramakrishna, they were at the age of 13, 14, 15, 20, 21. So they were dumbfounded. They were asking Sri Ramakrishna, Sir, you never studied Vedanta. You had only the schooling up to your fourth or fifth grade. In spite of that, how do you know the Vedas? You are speaking of the Vedas, the Vedanta, the science of yoga. As I told you, I talk on the master degrees, how many master degrees Sri Ramakrishna had, education of Sri Ramakrishna. He had so many mastery of so many subjects. So we think going to the school or college or some places and having some certificates, that is degree. But Sri Ramakrishna had better education than all of us. Now, these youths, especially Shardanandaji Maharaj, he was dumbfounded. How could Sri Ramakrishna, who had only gone up to the grade of fourth or fifth, know about the Vedas? It's so tough, it is so difficult. One life is not enough to complete one portion of the Vedas. There are four Vedas. Of the four Vedas, there are so many branches. You can't even complete one branch of the Veda in one life. And there are such four Vedas, billions and billions of mantras, stotras there. So, how could Sri Ramakrishna know the Vedas, the Vedanta, and the science of yoga, and everything? So, some of us, however, would sometimes ask Sri Ramakrishna, Sir, although you never learned even reading and writing, how did you know all these things? Unique as he was, Sri Ramakrishna would not be annoyed. Even when people would ask some silly questions, Ramakrishna would not be annoyed. Sir, although you never learnt even reading and writing, how did you know all these things? Unique as he was, Sri Ramakrishna would not be annoyed even at that strange question. He would smile. Now, can you understand what is the greatness of Sri Ramakrishna? No ego, no anger. He would smile, even derided, even spoken of in this manner. He would not feel hurt. He would not feel egoistic. No ego at all. You can see the greatness here. Unique as he was, Shardanandaji Maharaj is telling, the master, Sri Ramakrishna, would not be annoyed even at that strange question. He would smile a little and say, Ah, it is true. I did not study myself, but I have heard much. I have heard much. I remember all of them. I have heard about the Vedas. I have heard the Vedanta. I have heard about the darshanas. I have heard about the Puranas from good and reliable scholars. After hearing them and knowing that what they contained, I made a garland of them, of all the books in my mind, and offered it at the lotus feet of the Divine Mother, saying, Here, O Divine Mother, are all thy scriptures, Puranas, and the like. Please, please, Mother, grant me pure devotion. Please grant me only pure devotion. I want only pure devotion, unalloyed, unconditioned, love at your lotus feet, not with any want, pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti. Take away all these things, Mother, and give me only pure devotion. So Ramakrishna is showing what should we aspire for. What should a spiritual aspirant aspire for? Pure devotion. Now you may wonder, how could Sri Ramakrishna just by hearing get all those things? Because of the concentration of the mind. First thing, he was a Shrutidhara, photographic memory. From his childhood, Ramakrishna had that photographic memory. Whatever he hears once or sees once, he would never forget afterwards. And another thing, Sri Ramakrishna had the real education, as I mentioned many times, that what is education? Education is the manifestation of perfection which is already within man. So you have got the perfection already within you. So to manifest that perfection is the goal of education. What do you mean by that? The Lord, the Atma Swarupa, the Parabrahma Swarupa, Paramatman, you may call by these names, God, is present in your own heart, is within you. You are of that nature. And what is his nature? The scientists may call him truth. Somebody may call him by other name, let them call whatever name he is. That is more than enough for us. So that God or Paramatman or Parabrahman, the truth, is of the nature, it is explained by only three minimum words in Vedanta. What is that? Sat Chit Ananda. What is Sat? Infinite existence, absolute. You exist, I exist, this table exists, the light exists, everything exists in this universe. And what is God? The sum total of all existences, of all the beings, of all the things, of all the universe, galaxies, Milky Ways, everything. The sum total of all existence, and much, much, much more than that is God. One aspect of God. Sat. That is meant by Sat, the reality. Astitva, existences. Then what is Chit? Consciousness, knowledge. A small, very minute or lower portion of the consciousness is knowledge. What is God? Infinite consciousness or infinite knowledge, absolute. So is infinite knowledge, infinite consciousness. Knowledge is a very lower thing. When you make it an object, then it becomes knowledge. But consciousness is much, much more higher than that, which knows that knowledge, which gets that, which gives that knowledge is consciousness. And you are of that infinite nature which is within you, infinite consciousness, infinite knowledge is within you. That is the Paramatman, Angushtamatro, Purusho Antaratma. Paramatman is present here, the Shiva, the Parabrahma. Everything, the whole universe is within you. You are the microcosm, Pindanda. So, what is the other aspect of that Lord? Infinite bliss, joy, Ananda, absolute. That another aspect of the Lord is bliss. So, all that infinite bliss, infinite security, infinite peace, infinite knowledge, infinite consciousness, all is there within you. So, to manifest that infinity, and that is called perfection. So to manifest that perfection is education. That is what Swami Vivekananda is telling. Education is the manifestation of perfection which is already within us, within you. That is education. So what should the teachers do? What should the books do? What should the parents do? That wheel of ignorance which is covering this has to be removed. That's all. Education means you are not thirsting some new knowledge. So collection of information is not knowledge. It's already there within you. The knowledge is already, infinite knowledge is already there within you. Can you give any proof that already the knowledge is there within you? Do you think that Newton got the idea of gravitation when the apple fell down? The knowledge was already there within him. Was it hiding there in the apple tree for the apple to fall down? The moment the falling of the apple was just a suggestion to open that wheel of ignorance to reveal that knowledge of gravitation to Newton, if he has found it out. That's all. The knowledge was already there. That is one of the examples given by Swami Vivekananda. Okay, if you don't still do not get faith, let us go to another great scientist who passed away some years back. His name is Stephen Hawking. Stephen Hawking. So he had some cerebral and other nervous disorder. He couldn't speak. He couldn't lift even his head. He would be on the wheelchair always. Like this on the wheelchair, it would be like he could not even lift his head. Some cerebral nervous disorder. So he had so much of knowledge. He couldn't even talk. They used to connect all the gadgets and everything into his brain. And if there is any knowledge coming out of the brain, getting some messages, they would be waiting as if the great thing is coming out of his mind. So which lab did he go? What was the experiment he did? Where did he get all those things knowledge? From within. Where did Stephen Hawking get all those knowledge with the scientist to be waiting to receive it? From within. It is within you. It is coming out from you. Any other examples? Ramanujam. Any other example? Kekulé, the great chemist. He was doing a lot of experiments on all the different structures, the molecular structures of the substances or molecule. Everything was linear. But when it comes to the aromatic compounds, the alkanes, alkenes, alkynes, the benzene, the aromatic compounds, he was not successful in finding out the linear structure of the atom or the not atom molecules. So he was confused. He did so much of experimentation and failed and failed. One day, with that thought, he went to sleep. He had a dream. In that dream, he saw a snake trying to swallow its own tail. The snake trying to swallow its own tail. Then it flashed within him, oh, I have thought of everything, this molecular structure and other things as linear. Let me go now test and see. Because of the dream, he could get that it may be circular. It may not be linear. It may be circular. Then he did the experiment and he found that the molecule of the benzene circular. So he got the result. Where did that knowledge? What was the dream coming from within? In his heart, seeing the snake swallowing it. His knowledge is coming from within. The knowledge, all the knowledge is already there within you. Infinite knowledge is there within you. You're searching outside. Infinite bliss is there within you. And any other example, Ramanujam, the great mathematician in India. Even many people are now even trying to decipher the formulas he has given. They cannot decipher that. And for him, Ramanujam used to tell, it would be seen. I could have seen all the formulas there, here and there, and I would collect and write it down, give it down. And he used to tell that the Gramadevata, the village deity, Mariamman or whatever of the village in Tamil Nadu where he lived, the deity of the village used to come and in his dream or vision used to give these formulas, he used to tell. Where will Mariamman and other things come from and give? It's in your own heart. The Lord is present, all that Mariamman or whatever God is in your own heart. So that knowledge, infinite knowledge is coming out. That's all. You purify your mind. So all that knowledge is coming out. So education is the manifestation of perfection which is already within man. The perfection you have to manifest. It is already there. The light is there. The knowledge is there. The bliss is there. You have to only manifest it. And what is religion according to Swami Vivekananda? Religion, the manifestation of divinity which is already within man is religion. So if education is manifestation of perfection which is already within you, if religion is manifestation of divinity already within you, If A is equal to B and B is equal to C, then A is equal to C. Then divinity and perfection are one and the same. If perfection and divinity are one and the same, then real religion, real education are one and the same. So realizing God, realizing the truth, the scientists may call it truth, the secret behind this universe, call whatever by the name, it is there within your heart. You find out that which is within your heart, the secret of the whole world is given out. That is already there within your heart. So Ramakrishna, what did he do? He tried to get the real education. We are trying to find the truth outside in the external world. Infinitely, we are trying to search and search. As I told you, there is Parthiban in Vivekananda College of our ashrama, the lecturer there. He got his education, the first degree. He got something like 53% or something. His mother was not pleased. She was unhappy. So to please her mother, he took another degree and got 73% or 74. She was very happy. Then if I can please my mother by giving more marks in the degrees, took another degree, got more marks, mother was pleased. So then it became a habit. He went on getting degrees and degrees. Now he had more than 147 degrees. His goal was to get 200 degrees. He has so many degrees. I have that list in my paper, in my notes. 17 MBAs, some 2 PhDs, some master degrees, some degrees, so many things. 147 degrees he has, 200, maybe now he has reached already 200 degrees. He's still having. So only 20% of his salary is working in 6 colleges. So he has mastery of so many subjects, but still he's still going on getting degrees and degrees. No end to the education. Go out to search in the world and find out the truth. It is so infinite that you will take infinite time to find out the truth. But if you go within and find out the truth by knowing which one, by knowing one, you can know everything that is already there within you. So Ramakrishna went there, concentrated his mind, and got that knowledge inside. So knowledge is revealed. What more do you want? Once when you get that which is within you, by knowing one, you can know everything. So Ramakrishna did that. First thing, he realized that Paramatman, Atman which is within, and the knowledge was his. Then he got the perfect concentrated mind, and he had the photographic memory. Put that mind to any portion wherever the secret is revealed. And he used to hear so many sadhus who had so many masters, mastery, the tantras, the mantras, the shastras, the Vaishnava scripts, the philosophy, everything used to come. Even he had expertise in alchemistry, the hatha yoga, the pranayama, everything. He not only had the knowledge, he practiced that and got the perfection, the end result of that too. So we tell that Ramakrishna went to fourth or fifth degree, no, fifth grade, but he had so much of immense of knowledge than what you can think of. You may have thousands of degrees, it would not be equal to the knowledge of Sri Ramakrishna. So he had got, because he got that highest education first. What is that manifestation of perfection which is already within? Then after that, once it is manifested, at will, at thrice, within 3 days, 3 hours, you used to get any result, any degree you want, any mastery you want. So you could see that same thing happening in Vivekananda. After that concentration, after that realization, he used to get that book, Encyclopedia Britannica. He would read that within 2 3 hours and send back and bring another encyclopedia. The librarian was very much upset. What are you seeing pictures or comics in encyclopedia? What is your Swami doing? He's taking so many books in one day, encyclopedia. Then the Swami himself came to the librarian, Vivekananda, and told, ask question from any page, whichever you want. I will give you everything. So then he tested him. Britannica encyclopedia took. Then Swami Vivekananda would quote pages, page numbers, what is there. The whole thing used to quote. Just a glance at it, you could get the essence and everything. So once you realize God, then education, true education is yours. So Ramakrishna had got that, but never boasted of that. Even when Shardanandaji Maharaj as a small boy is asking, Sir, although you never learned even reading and writing, how did you know all this? See the humility, real humility, true humility. Unique as he was, Sri Ramakrishna would not be annoyed even at the strange questions, silly questions, demeaning him. He would smile a little. and say, ah, it is true, I did not study myself, but I have heard much. I remember all that photographic memory and all that. I have heard the Vedas, I have heard the Vedanta, I have heard the Darshanas, and I have heard the Puranas from good and reliable scholars. Great scholars who used to come, they used to read it out, and once he heard it, it is his. He read the Bible from one of the devotees who used to come, and he could quote any page number. A teaching of Christ from the Bible, he would quote. Ramakrishna could tell, open this page number, you'll get this teaching there. Once he had heard, that's all. Such was the memory, such was the knowledge. Whichever, once you realize God, then what you want, you will get it just at a trice. Once you hear, Sri Ramakrishna is proving it. Ah, is it? It is true. I did not study myself, but I have heard much. I remember all that. I don't forget anything. I remember all that. I have heard the Vedas. I have heard the Vedanta. I've heard the Darshanas. I have heard the Puranas from good and reliable scholars. After hearing them and knowing what they contained, I made a garland of them, all the books in my mind, and offered it at the lotus feet of the Divine Mother, saying, O Divine Mother, here are all thy scriptures, O Divine Mother, Puranas, Shastra, Darshana, everything. All these, please take this garland. Please take it at your feet and please grant me pure devotion. Please grant me pure devotion. Shuddha Bhakti, pure devotion. That is what the essence of all the sadhanas, pure devotion. You have to ask for that pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti. So, and also many a times, Ramakrishna, if he could understand anything, used to run to the Divine Mother, the source of all knowledge, the creatress, the empress who is producing Akilanda Koti Brahmanda Janani every second. She is giving birth from her womb to Milky Ways and galaxies, the Divine Mother. That's why she is called Akhilanda Koti. Akhila, all, Anda means womb, the egg. Koti, Koti means billions. 10 million is one Koti. Akhilanda Koti Brahmanda, the whole universal egg. Janani, she is giving birth. Ramakrishna also had the vision that Divine Mother is giving birth to so many universes, galaxies, Milky Ways. So she is the Divine Mother, is the mother of Ramakrishna who is giving birth to all those things. All the secret are in her hand. She is the one who has done all these things, the whole nature, the whole universe, the whole Milky Way, stars, galaxies, planets, everything she has done, created. And now when he wanted anything, Mother, I can't understand. Mother, I want to know the secret of Gita, Bhagavad Gita. I have not studied under scholars or going to the universities. I want to know the essence of Bhagavad Gita, Mother. Please give me. Like a child used to run to Mother. And Mother would give the essence, the cream. Only for us people, it is buttermilk and all the dirty things. We have to go through the mud and squalor. Studying in the universities and doing all those things, we have to get all the muddy waters, we have to go. But for Sri Ramakrishna, no going wallowing in the muddy waters, just pure essence, the butter is got. He used to tell Mother, I have not studied, I do not know Vedanta. Please, I want to know the essence of Bhagavad Gita. And Mother would tell, this is the essence of Bhagavad Gita. Mother, I want to know the essence of Vedanta. I don't want to study and all those things, waste my time in all those scholarship. Mother, I want just the essence of Vedanta. Yes, my dear child, take it. This is the essence of Vedanta. The Divine Mother used to give, want more, better education? The knowledge, everything is from at trice. The knowledge, the source of knowledge. You may be knowing just some facts, that's all, information by doing the degrees and master degrees. The essence is realized. The truth is realized to Ramakrishna. That is true education. Sri Ramakrishna had got that real education. And see how humbly he's telling Sri Ramakrishna, ah, it is true, my dear child, I did not study myself, but I have heard much. I have remember all those things. I have heard the Vedas, I have heard the Vedantas, I have heard the Darshanas, I have heard the Puranas from good and reliable scholars. After hearing them and knowing what they contained, see, after knowing what they contained, the essence of it, after knowing Not only just hearing and just forgetting. After you finish your degrees, you just throw your books for binding samosas and making samosa covers or something else like bonda and bhajia. That's all. But Ramakrishna didn't do that. After studying, he remembers everything. He's taken the essence of the knowledge. Once the examination is over, we throw away all the books. After that, you don't even remember what you have read. You don't even apply that to your life. And you call yourself great master degrees and degree holders and educated. Is it? So Ramakrishna is telling, I have heard the Vedas, I have heard the Vedanta, I have heard the Darshanas, Puranas from good and reliable scholars. After hearing them and knowing them, what they contained, knowing them what they contained, I made a garland of them, of all the books in my mind, and offered it at the lotus feet of the Divine Mother, saying, Oh, my dear Divine Mother, here are all thy scriptures. I have offered it at your feet. Puranas, Darshanas, everything, Veda, Vedanta, everything, the garland I have offered at your feet. Please grant me pure devotion. Please grant me pure devotion. After getting all that education, what do? Do you apply any of the truth you have learned? The great truth you learn. Once you get the PhD, what is meant by PhD? Doctorate of philosophy. That's meant by this thing, philosophy, the highest knowledge you have got. And what do you do with that? After that, go and earn money. Only money. You go to the best college where it gives more money to study or teach, or you go to even while doing PhD, wherever the university will offer you stipend, more stipend, you go to that college. Why? Money. What is your goal after all those things? Money. What after getting money? Luxury, enjoyment, worldly enjoyment. So after getting so much of education, what is your goal? Money, enjoyment. Then Ramakrishna gives the example of the great scholars are like that. After getting so much of knowledge, what do they do? Their eyesight is only on the money and enjoyment, worldly things. He compares that to the vultures. The vultures fly very high. They have a very good eyesight. After going so much of height, instead of enjoying the height of that place, what do they look at? Always their sight will be, is there any dead body, rottening dead body there to eat? So though they have reached such great heights, their mind is on the rotten dead bodies. Likewise, we get so much of knowledge. What do we use that for? Money. What for money? Enjoyment. And what is your education? No connection. You have a finished education, electrical engineering and so many other engineering, then you will be in some outsourcing or some software industry, will be typing, clerk job, typing, encrypting. You are a civil engineer, you are an electrical engineer, you are not using it that properly to the society, typing something. Why? Money, I get more money. That's all. Where is your education? What is your education for? But how did Ramakrishna use his education? For the welfare of the world. What did he get? Vinayata, humility, lost his ego. He merged at everything. Oh, mother, please grant me pure devotion. So, Sri Ramakrishna would say of the non dual mood, that is the Advaita, the highest, the Paramatma, when he would see that one and only one, Akhanda, indivisible, Ekameva Dvitiyam Brahma, one and one alone God. He would say of that non dual mood, Advaita, no two, non dual, or the mood beyond all moods, the mood beyond all moods. That is the last word Sri Ramakrishna used to tell, because it is out of experience. He's experienced it himself. And after the experience, he's telling, he would say, Sri Ramakrishna used to say, the non dual mood or the mood beyond all moods, that is the last word. Do you know how? Suppose there is an old servant, Sri Ramakrishna used to give example, very simple example, and explain the highest truths. So he's giving a beautiful example. He is explaining about the highest truth, that is the non-dual mood, that is the mood beyond all moods. That is the last word. Do you know how? Suppose there is an old servant. His master is pleased with him. Suppose there is an old servant. He is very loyal to the master. His master is pleased with him on account of his good qualities. He has done so much of service. So the master is pleased with that servant on account of his so many good qualities, his faith in his words, and consults him in all matters. One day, as an expression of his high appreciation, the master or the king takes hold of the hand of this servant, old servants, and tries to make him sit on his own seat, the master's seat, the king's seat. The embarrassed servant quails, still the master drags him, makes him sit there on his own seat and says, "Do sit down. You and I are one." It is just like that. What is that Advaita? Brahmagnana. The Lord taking you because you are so loyal, you are purified, you have done the sadhana, so much of devotion. So out of his infinite grace, he takes you and merges you within himself, takes him, raise you towards his level, raise you to his level. That is Advaita, mode beyond modes, the non-dual. So Sri Ramakrishna is telling, he would say of the non-dual mode, Advaita, and the mode beyond all moods. That is the last word in spirituality. And do you know how it is? And he gives this beautiful example of the servant. The master, when the servant is too loyal, too devoted, and also he is so faithful, he's doing all the works of the master, the king or the master will be so happy with him, take him forcefully, place him on his seat, though he is so shy, doesn't want to. Then the embarrassed servant quails, still the manager drags him, makes him sit there on his own seat at his own level and says, "Do sit down. You and I are one." It is just like that. So the Lord, the Paramatman, the highest Lord, will take us, drag us to his level out of his infinite compassion and merge us within himself and gives a place within himself. And he will tell you and I are one. The Lord, the Paramatman, and we ordinary individual souls are one. He places us at that high level. That is Advaita. That is the mode beyond all modes, the non-dual mode, Advaita. That is the last word in spirituality. And what a wonderful, simple way Sri Ramakrishna is explaining what is Advaita. Could you understand what is that highest thing? And Sri Ramakrishna is explaining to us in such simple words, very common example. What a wonderful, we get so much of joy out of those examples and when we get that knowledge. Now, Shardanandaji Maharaj is explaining further, telling that a friend of ours, there is another direct disciple whom Swami Vivekananda called the real true Brahmana. I'm going to send you to America now. Swami Vivekananda had gone there to America and told the Kshatriya had come, the princely warrior had come. Now I'm going to send you the truest of Brahmana to your country. And whom did he send? He sent the Swami Turiyananda. So that Turiyananda, when he was young, the friend who was coming to Ramakrishna at that time, his name was Hari. Hari. Hari was his name. So a friend of ours, Hari, Shardananda Maharaj is telling all the direct disciples would become great, whom Swami Vivekananda explained as the true Brahmana. I'm going to send you there. I was just a Kshatriya, warrior. A friend of ours, Hari, alias Swami Turiyananda, paid much attention to the study of Vedanta from his childhood. From his childhood, he would study only Vedanta, that too monoistic Vedanta, non-dual, non-duality, Advaita Vedanta only used to study Turiyanandaji. From his childhood, he gave much attention to the study of Advaita Vedanta at one time. The master loved him on account of his continence, purity, brahmacharya. From his childhood, he followed this vrata of brahmacharya, continence from childhood, bala brahmachari. From his childhood, he would not even think or look at women or girls with any bad attitude. Purity, only God and God alone. So continuous brahmacharya from his childhood, bala brahmachari from his childhood. The master loved him on account of that purity of his countenance from his childhood, devotion, steadfastness, the faith, the steadfastness, perseverance in spiritual life, and all those virtues this small child had. Hari, or later who became Swami Turiyananda. So his mind was dedicated to Advaita Vedanta from the childhood. He studied and studied about that. And Sri Ramakrishna loved him on account of his continence, brahmacharya, from childhood, his devotion. Because of his devotion, Ramakrishna loved him, steadfastness and other virtues, great spiritual virtues. As he applied himself to the study of Vedanta, meditation, devotional exercises, and the like, the friend did not or could not visit Sri Ramakrishna as usual. So he was devoting much of his time to the study of Vedanta, meditation, and all other things. He could not make more time to come to Sri Ramakrishna at that time. So, as Hari or Turiyananda applied himself in his childhood to the study of Vedanta, meditation, devotional exercises, and the like, Hari did not or could not visit Sri Ramakrishna as usual for some time. This does not pass unnoticed. So Ramakrishna could notice anything, could understand. So this did not pass unnoticed. One day, Sri Ramakrishna saw a boy. One day, Sri Ramakrishna saw a boy who used to visit Hari, or who used to visit him along with our friend, that is Hari Turiyananda. Came alone to Dakshineshwar and asked him, well, how is that you came alone? Why didn't Hari come with you to meet me? Hasn't he come? So to which that boy, another boy replied, the friend of Hari, sir, he is now applying his mind intensely to the study of Vedanta. He is studying Vedanta, studying all the scriptures, Upanishads, intensely studying it. So that's why he's not finding time to come to you. He spends night and day in study, vichara, viveka vichara. He spends night and day in study, discussion, and argumentation. It is perhaps because he thinks that time will be wasted. That is why he has not come. The master heard this and said nothing more. The person we are speaking of, that is Hari, Swami Turiyananda, came to Dakshineshwar a few days afterwards. As soon as he saw him, Sri Ramakrishna said, well, Hari, I hear you are now given much to the discussion of the Vedanta. That's very, very good. That's very good. But does it teach anything more than this? What does the Vedanta teach? What is the essence of Vedanta? I got it by Divine Mother, the essence of Vedanta. But does that Vedanta teach you anything more than this? What is the essence of Vedanta? Divine Mother has told me, Brahman is real, Brahma Satya. The world is unreal, Jagan Mithya. When Sri Ramakrishna wanted to know the essence of Vedanta, he ran to Divine Mother like a child, Mother, Mother, oh Mother, I want to know, I have not studied Vedanta. I want to know the essence of Vedanta. Can you please teach me? Then Mother, Divine Mother Kali, the Divine Mother Durga told, my dear child, the essence of Vedanta is Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. This world is unreal. God alone is real. God alone is true. All else is untrue. Brahma Satya, God alone is true. Jagan Mithya, all else is untrue. So Divine Mother told Ramakrishna, this is the essence, the highest truth of Vedanta. Mother has given me, shown me. Is your Vedanta teaching anything more than that? Or anything higher than that? This is the essence of Vedanta. The Mother has given me already. Day and night you are sitting there and discussing, arguing on that. What is the essence? Instead of knowing the essence, you are just going to the non-essential parts. Scholarship. Come to the essence. So whenever I am in trouble, whenever I am in sorrow, whenever I am in any adverse situation, when my mind and other things are disturbed, immediately I remember this wonderful statement of Sri Ramakrishna. Ramakrishna used to tell to the common people so that they can understand. In Bengali, he used to tell, Ishwar hi vastu, Ishwar hi shob, or shob avastu. Ishvara, the Lord, is the essence of this world. All else is immaterial. Ramakrishna used to tell, Ishvara, the Lord, is the essence of this world. All else is immaterial. Ishwar hi vastu, or shob avastu. The Lord is true, alone true, all else is unreal. Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya, God alone is true. So I remember that whenever I'm in trouble, whenever I'm in deep anxiety, whenever I'm disturbed state, then immediately I remember this, Brahma Satya. God alone is true. Why are you worrying about this false world? Why are you disturbed by the false world? It is untrue. When this whole world and the happening and everything is untrue, why are you worried? Worry about the reality. Worry about God. Why do you worry about these unreal things? Immediately my mind settled down. So how we can use these wonderful truths to help us in our day-to-day life? How can we make it practical? Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. God alone is true. All else is untrue. This body, the disease, the pain, everything in this world is untrue. God alone is true. I immediately apply that. And my mind settled down. I will be joyful again. All the disturbance is gone. I apply it. So here, Sri Ramakrishna is telling Turiyananda or Hari, that small boy who was studying intensely Vedanta, argumentation, discussion. Hari, I hear that you have given much time to discussion of Vedanta. That's very, very good. That is good. But does it teach anything more than this? What is that? Brahman or God, the highest Godhead, Nirakara Nirguna Parabrahma, formless, attributeless Brahman, the highest truth, Satchit Ananda. Brahman alone is real, and this world is unreal. Is there anything higher than this which your Vedanta teaches? Brahman is real, Brahma Satya, Jagan Mithya, the world is unreal. Does your Vedanta teach anything more than this? Is there anything more? The friend, that is Hari or Turiyananda, that young boy at that time, yes, sir, what else can there be? That is the truth, highest truth. The friend said afterwards that the master opened his eyes. The friend, that is Turiyananda, said afterwards that master opened his eyes to the import of Vedanta in those few words. The essence, the import of Vedanta. He opened my eyes to that. Just those words, 2 lines was sufficient for me to open my eyes, inner eyes. Yes, sir, what else can there be? The friend Hari Turiyananda said afterwards that the Sri Ramakrishna opened his eyes to the import of Vedanta in those few words. Hearing them, Hari, he was surprised and thought, it is indeed true. It is indeed true that everything of Vedanta is understood when one is convinced of the truth of these few words in one's heart of hearts. So now you can see this is the work of the true Guru. The true Guru will give you the essence. You are just going for all the unessential things, the rubbishes you are getting. The grace of the Guru is just with one word or one sentence. He can give you the essence, the crux, the import. And see, Turiyananda was studying from his childhood. Master opened his eyes. He gave him, is there anything more, my dear child Hari, other than this? Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya, God alone is true, all else is untrue. That is the essence of Vedanta, the highest truth. So let us take that. Always remember the words of Sri Ramakrishna. Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya, it's the essence of this highest truth. God alone is true, all else is untrue. God alone is true, all else is untrue. Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. Another beautiful statement is also there of the highest of Vedanta in Advaita Vedanta other than this Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. That is Jiva Brahmaiva Naparaha. Jiva Brahmaiva Naparaha. These two are the dictums highest in Advaita Vedanta. Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. And another thing is Jiva Brahmaiva Naparaha. Jiva Brahma Eva. All the living beings are God alone. Nothing but God. Jiva Brahma Eva na Paraha. There is no higher God than the living beings. Jiva Brahmaiva na Paraha. There is no higher God than living beings. Living beings are the highest manifestation of God. That is another second dictum of Vedanta. Jiva Brahmaiva na Paraha. There is no higher God. Highest manifestation of God is in the living beings. Brahma Satya, the essence of this whole world is Lord. Brahma Satya, He is the truth alone. He alone is the truth. All else is untrue. In all the living beings are the highest manifestation of the God, and that too, human beings are the highest manifestation of God. Human beings are the highest manifestation of God. Keeping the God in the form of your mother and father, in the form of your husband and wife and children, in your own house. You go to see God in stones and temples, in other places, in the pictures. When the living God is moving around in the form of your father, mother, brother, sister, daughters, sons, you neglect that and you go and feed the images with water, sweets, and other things, while your father-in-law, your mother-in-law is ill-treated. Because God, the highest God, is manifested in them. See God in every living being and serve them. That is the truest and fastest way to your spiritual progress. But the highest crux of Vedanta, Ramakrishna has told us, Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya. So what a wonderful highest truth of Vedanta is given by Sri Ramakrishna. That is the work of the Guru. The highest Lord has given the essence. It opened the eyes of Hari. You study so much, you don't get the input. And the Guru gives you the crux, the essence. So wonderful. We'll meditate on that always until we meet again next time in the next class. For today, it's sufficient. Now, this is the time for question and answer. If you have any doubt, if you have any questions, you can ask. Any questions, any doubts? Okay. You are now floating on the highest truth of Brahma Satya Jagan Mithya, so you don't have any questions. I have a question here. What is the use of Western education? Secular school, instead of, if they are purified from childhood, that would be better. Yeah, people are wanting to earn money, so they need the Western education. So parents have the wherewithal to give the our Indian education, the real education, to teach about the purity and other things. Parents can do it. Brothers and sisters can teach it to their younger ones. Let the Western education be got, because that will sharpen our brain, and we will, by that Western education, we will come to know that you will not gain anything from that Western education. So only then you will turn towards the inner life. So tiring of the wings, it is necessary. So it will sharpen your intellect. So let we finish all those experiences too. But as parents, as sisters and brothers and other things, we can give our children, the younger ones, the true education of the purity of the mind of God, and the real education that can be given. It is in your hand. Nobody can deny it. You have it. You can now also have yourself too. So that question
Namaste, Maharaj.
Yeah, namaste. Who is it?
This is Shantanu.
Shantanu. Please tell
Yeah.
Shantanu.
This is regarding yesterday's class, Maharaj. You discussed about sense organs and sense organs withdrawing from the sense objects. But
Yeah.
sense organs, that is the means to acquire knowledge also, no, Maharaj, isn't it? Like, I mean, we acquire knowledge through our sense organs only, no, Maharaj. Even like the
Sense
higher truths.
are only the instrument. It is just like your microscope or the telescope. It is an instrument. The mind going through that with the help of the sense organs, it reaches the outer world and collects information. They're only instruments. Sense organs are the instruments. Just like you have a telescope, you have a microscope, you have so many other instruments. Making use of that instrument, you gain something. So likewise, these are the five instruments by which the mind can go out to the world and collect information. That's all.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you.
Without attaching your mind to the sense organs will be there. It is useless. Now you are hearing for nearly 1.5 hours the lecture now. At that time, there was the clock was ticking, the wind was blowing, so many things were happening, so many vehicles were going outside, though your eyes may be seeing it, your ears may be hearing it. Was it recorded? No. Why? Because your mind was not there. Your mind was completely on the class today. So even though you could hear, you could see, you could smell so many things cooked by your wife or anything, you didn't bother to give your mind at that there at all. So without the mind attaching to the indriyas, even though the indriyas are open, nothing is gathered, you see. So only if the mind is attached to the indriyas, then only it will gather information. Otherwise, you were hearing so many things, seeing so many things now, but your mind was now on the class, so you would never you got anything about those things. It's just like that.
Okay, Maharaj. Thank you.
Yeah. Any other questions? Okay. So there are no questions. So we will conclude our discussion with a prayer. Om Priyatam Pundarikakshaha सर्वयज्ञेश्वरो हरिः तस्मिन् तुष्टे जगत्तुष्टं प्रीणिते प्रीणितं जगत् हरिः ॐ तत्सत् श्रीरामकृष्णार्पणमस्तु।